four-time Defensive Player of the Year was once considered too offensively limited for pro ball. Big Ben was once thought too small to play the 4 or 5 in the NBA.
All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope y'all are having a good night so far. Hope you guys had a good day. I wanted to check out this video that just popped up on my feed a couple of days ago. It's from the channel Secret Base, and this one's about Ben Wallace. It's called Ben Wallace, Too Small, No Name Role Player, Hall of Fame Defensive Legend. Absolutely. Now, I gotta admit, part of the reason I want to do this is I don't know Ben Wallace's journey to the NBA. I know him very well as an NBA player, especially a Detroit Piston, what he was doing in those couple of years there, and then I know he went to the Bulls. But I know him as an NBA player. I followed him. I respect the hell out of this guy. I used to call him like the next Dennis Rodman, you know what I mean? Because the guy was in there doing all the garbage work, like just racking up rebounds, getting blocks. But yeah, honestly, he's his own beast. So I wanted to check this out. One, because I believe Ben Wallace deserves some appreciation. Shout out to the 04 Pistons for what they were able to accomplish. Like one of the greatest underrated teams of all time, in my opinion. But also because I want to learn a little more about Ben Wallace, where he came from, his story, and maybe some later years in his career that I didn't actually pay attention to. So anyways, you guys, as I always do, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description for you. There you'll see a list of channel members, and another shout out to Just Ricardo, new channel member. Want to say thank you, and I hope you like that Larry O'Brien trophy next to your name. I can see you now from a mile away. And I'll be responding to your comments whenever you leave one. Anyways, you guys, please leave this video a like. It helps out a ton. And without further ado, let's learn about some Ben Wallace tonight. If you hear any weird noises, like a monster is in my house, it's just my dog. Yeah, you. She's rolling around on her back, and she's bored. She's ready for me to be done and take her on a WALK. All right, guys, sorry, let's do this.
Ben Wallace will go down in history as one of the most dominant defenders that there ever was. And his legacy is more than that. He's the first undrafted player to make it to the Hall of Fame. And did I mention his championship?
Undrafted?
Or his elite rebounding? Or his leadership? Or his build? Or his hair?
Four-time Okay, I already learned something. I didn't know he went undrafted. Hall of Famer, well-deserved. Champion in 04, yes. Four-time All-Star. Okay, makes sense. Defensive Player of the Year 4 times. Damn. Oh, defensive team, absolutely. Guys, how short was his career? How long was his career? Second team, 07? A 5-time NBA All-Star. Okay. 19 seconds in, I already learned a lot.
Might sound like I'm getting more and more superficial as I go down the list. But the fact that even his hairstyle was iconic is such a stark contrast to how his career started, or nearly didn't start.
Okay.
Because the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year was once considered too offensively limited for pro ball. Big Ben was once thought too small to play the 4 or 5 in the NBA.
By the way, the whole time we watch this, just keep in the back of your mind, a guy like him would never make it in the league now, which I think is a travesty. Because he couldn't shoot that corner 3. Can't hit that corner 3, you're not being considered anymore. But what a great player, man. You don't have to shoot threes in order to be effective and be a key factor in your team's success.
The face and leader of the 2004 title-winning Pistons was once a no-name role player whose arrival in Detroit signaled a bleak future. Let's meet these other versions of Ben Wallace. In the Prism. This episode is presented by Honda. The all-new CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid is built to explore.
Oh, wow.
In high school, Ben Wallace was 6'6", 180. While we were all a little smaller in high school, it's hard to imagine Ben Wallace that skinny when you look at him in his prime. But when you glance at his stat sheet, you can see his skill was there even if his bulk wasn't.
Yeah. Guy's getting 18 rebounds and 10 blocks a game. I don't care if he's scoring. We got other players that are going to put the ball in the basket. This guy's doing everything else.
College scouts, however, weren't impressed. His teammate was racking up 36 points a game, and that caught their attention.
They should both.
Wallace wasn't left hanging, however. Thanks to impressing Charles Oakley at a basketball camp, Wallace ended up at Oakley's alma mater, D2 school, Virginia Union University.
All right, Oak.
Where he made it to the D2 Final Four, and his unique skill set was not overlooked. His defense, his rebounding, his intangibles were celebrated. Look what his coach said. But...
What did his coach say? I'm sorry. Ben is probably the best... It's so blurry. Ben is probably the best player at his position and has done more for us than any other player. There we go. If you look at his blocks and his rebounds and the other things he does, the intimidation factor, I don't know if people can only look at his scoring. Absolutely. There's two sides to the game.
Were celebrated. Look what his coach said. But Wallace's unique skill set didn't seem to make up for his unique skill deficit. His coach also said this.
It's so dumb.
It's hard to attract...
Not every player needs to be Michael Jordan, guys. Like, no. You need a Dennis Rodman or a Horace Grant in there sometimes.
Pro scouts, let alone convince pro scouts of your future greatness when a lot of what you do doesn't show up in the statistics.
Yeah.
Let's consider Virginia Union's Elite Eight game Wallace's senior year. His stat line was... not remarkable. But Wallace spent the game guarding a 7'2" center, and he neutralized the giant.
Nice.
This article gets it. You gotta read between the lines to see Wallace's greatness. Wait, this article gets it, but Wallace is not in the headline. He didn't spur VUU past St. Rose? These are the names of the game's leading scorers.
Of course.
Points get the glory. Ben Wallace gets buried in the body paragraphs.
And that's unfortunate, too, because I would like to have a world where people are inspired by a player like this and want to emulate this, but then they don't get recognized for that. So what do you get recognized for? Scoring a bunch of points, and then you have a shot to make it to the pros. It's unfortunate, though, the way, the media plays into the problem.
As his college career came to a close in 1996, NBA scouts were aware of Big Ben, which was good, but they certainly didn't think he could survive in the league on defense alone. Which wasn't a dream-ending scouting analysis. If he worked on scoring, he could have a good chance to make the NBA. And it wasn't like Wallace disagreed. He wasn't sitting there dressed in all black saying nobody understands me. He knew he was on the cusp of the NBA, and he'd do whatever he needed to do.
I'm at the point where I can either make my dream come true, or I can just be another one saying, if I had done this or I had done that, I could have made it. Wow.
Nobody, including the player himself, could look at the Ben Wallace of 1996 and see what he was capable of becoming.
And I don't understand his mentality, because at this point, Dennis Rodman was making waves all over the place. I'm sorry for keep bringing him up, but 1996, think about it. The Bulls were winning 72 games and winning the championship that year. Dennis Rodman was a key factor to that team. It's not like it's 2025 where there's no longer an appreciation for players like this. But in 96, it was very fresh on our minds. This is a must-have aspect to your team. You need a garbage man, essentially. You know what I mean? Like that's just every successful team needs a guy like this.
Take that along with the fact that the 96 draft class was one of the best in history, and Big Ben was not chosen. He did, however, get a tryout with the Celtics that summer, which brings us to another version of Ben Wallace. Too small for the post. During the tryout period, the Celtics played Wallace at the wing because of his height, despite his prior work experience. As Ben Wallace later recounted the story, he tried to stand up for himself, but the Celtics weren't buying it.
I'm 4'5", and they was like, not in this league. They told me that I was too small, that I'd never make it in this league playing at the 4'5".
Wallace didn't make the Celtics roster. So Ben headed overseas, joining an
tall was he?
Italian team where he did get to play center in one game before he was cut because the team wanted someone with more experience. I was able to find footage of that one game by copying and pasting Italian words into various search bars, and this sequence from the game gives us a little glimpse into what scouts saw. He bobbles the ball on offense, but then got an easy block on the other end.
Nice.
It almost looks like he baited the guy into shooting, hanging back and then springing up for the block.
A la Hakeem Olajuwon, yes.
Clearly, he had talent, but it wasn't enough to keep him employed. Wallace headed home and was chosen in the second round of the CBA draft, not even the first round. The CBA was his career plan, even after the NBA's Washington Bullets called his agent with a tryout invite. Wallace figured they'd just play him at the 2 or 3 again and he wouldn't make the team. So he turned down the Bullets. Then, GM Wes Unseld called back himself. A championship undersized center in his day, Unseld assured Wallace he'd be playing in the post if he made the team. Unseld had plenty of guys who could score. He needed rebounds and toughness in the paint, and he thought Ben Wallace could supply that. So,
Wes says, when I got to camp... Oh, no, okay. This is from Ben Wallace. When I got to camp, Wes pulled me into his office and basically told me, I got a lot of guys that can score the ball, but I need somebody who's out there who ain't afraid to mix it up in the paint. Yes, sir. Rebound the basketball, protect the rim, and not afraid to knock somebody on their ass if they come through the lane. Exactly. And when I say garbage man, it's not meant to be disrespectful at all. It's literally just what we used to call them. This is crucial. It's a crucial factor for a team.
So Mr. Wallace headed to Washington.
Think about why Charles Oakley had such a long career. It wasn't because he was bombing threes.
Coach Jim Lynam was skeptical at first, but Big Ben won him over. He didn't bowl him over. He was the 13th man on the roster, but that counts.
Yeah.
Ben Wallace was an NBA player.
Yep, 6 minutes a game.
The following season saw a little uptick. Wallace started 5 games in a row while other guys were injured, and he played well. Fans were appreciative of his hard-nosed style. His teammates were too, particularly because he brought that same intensity to practice.
Rod Strickland, he blocks about 4 shots of mine every day in practice. And Rod Strickland was quick. Let's see. Chris Webber says, when somebody plays you like that in practice, it doesn't surprise me how well he's played. Yeah.
Ben Wallace was a tough, hard worker, and Rod Strickland and Chris Webber sang his praises. The 5-game streak was referred to as Wallace's emergence. Within the sentence, despite Wallace's emergence, he won't be getting more playing time when the other big guys are healthy. So, kind of a mixed bag there.
Yeah, at least he's getting a shot.
Year 2, he averaged many more minutes than year 1, but still not a lot.
Yeah, the one block.
He averaged many more minutes.
5 rebounds. Oh, man. 17 minutes, though. 3 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block. So if you double that, we're at about 32 minutes, 33 minutes. He'd have 10 blocks or 10 rebounds, 6 points, and 2 blocks. Starting to look a little more realistic. Give him another 10 minutes, and yeah, that's the Ben Wallace we know. Okay.
It's than year 1, but still not a lot. And the fervor of support waned. But being a mediocre sub is better than being the 13th man. Or not in the league at all.
Agreed.
Year 3, his stat line improved, and because of teammate injuries, he got a lot more playing time, splitting the center role with Terry Davis. Problem was, the Wizards were quite stinky. And a lot of that was blamed on the Wallace-Davis co-center situation. Why wasn't Wallace considered a true center? His size.
Yeah.
But hey, fine role player is better than mediocre sub.
All fine role players, but none taller than 6'10". Hold on. I gotta know. How tall is Ben Wallace?
There are a few individuals named Ben Wall.
Oh, come on. No, not Ben Wall. How tall is Ben Wallace? Let's see. Sorry, guys. I gots to know. 6'9". Okay.
Sub, so let's take a win while we've got it. Because the fine times in Washington didn't last. The Wizards themselves bought the too small rhetoric. They traded Wallace to Orlando for true center Ike Austin. Even Wes Unseld, who personally knew what a smaller center was capable of, was like,
damn.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have a tall guy. While the trade probably felt like a rejection, it turned out to be a blessing, because it's in Orlando that we start to recognize glimpses of the Ben Wallace we know today. Yes, it's true, he still struggled on the offensive end, but the Magic didn't care. He was their starting power forward, and his job was to focus on defense and generate fast breaks.
That's it. I was going to say, it's a no-brainer to just stick him in a power forward position and let him do his work.
And he was very good at his job. In March, he had 3 games with 16 or more rebounds and earned high praise from coach Doc Rivers.
Nice.
As the Magic made an unexpected playoff push, Wallace played through bone spurs, and the city fell in love with his effort and skill and attitude. He started to be described in much more positive terms. Yes, that is the guy I know.
Uh-huh.
But all this praise didn't define Ben just yet, because it was in the context of being an underdog minimum contract guy on an underdog overachieving team. Expectations were low, and he exceeded them. At the end of the season, Wallace was a free agent, and with other teams courting him, the Magic GM posited that Wallace might not be so well liked under the expectations of a bigger contract.
People liked Ben a lot last year, but is he a near max contract guy? You may like him at one number and not like him so much at another number. Okay.
Which brings us to another version of Ben Wallace. A no-name role player on the rebuilding Detroit Pistons. Now, the Pistons didn't exactly trade one of the league's best players for Ben Wallace and Chucky Atkins. Grant Hill was going to Orlando in free agency, but the teams agreed to do it as a sign-and-trade with Atkins and Wallace as throw-ins. However, at the time, fans and the media reacted as if it was a direct Grant Hill for Wallace and Atkins trade.
Yeah.
Because, after all, that's who the teams were getting.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed pretty clear who won that trade. Wallace wasn't known on the national scene. His breakout
season... Isn't
that
crazy? Because in the moment, that would have looked like Detroit got robbed. But nobody knew what was about to happen to Grant Hill's career due to injuries.
And was on a team that didn't end up making the playoffs. Outside of Orlando and DC, nobody knew who Ben Wallace was, but they did know Grant Hill was a 5-time All-Star.
And in hindsight, man, if they would have kept Ben Wallace in Orlando, and then, you got a healthy young T-Mac coming in there, man, the Grant Hill thing didn't have to happen. But once again, it made so much sense when Grant Hill was healthy. So never mind. What are you going to... Hindsight's always 20/20.
In Detroit, Wallace seemed more like a burden than an asset. One guy said Wallace wasn't insignificant, which is different from saying he's significant. Oh, but what's this? By January, the Detroit press had some nicer things to say about Big Ben. At that point,
I don't know why, by the way. She's hilarious to me. Her dry delivery of humor just gets me. All right, so Ben Wallace is shooting 31.2% from the free throw line. Okay, the Pistons need his defense and his rebounding, especially late in close games. This is saying he's 6'8", even though AI told me he was 6'9". I was gonna guess 6'8", by the way, but anyways, he's averaging 12 rebounds a game, leading shot blocker with 1.6 a game. He's a warrior and comes to play every night. He just needs help on his inside and 3 more inches. Yeah, he's not going to grow anymore, you guys. But you can definitely try to work on that free throw because 31%, man, at least get to 50, bro.
Wallace was 3rd in the league in rebounding. You might be wondering, so why not give him an A? Well, mostly because of the refrain he's heard throughout his career: size and offense. By the end of the season, he had at least shed the no-name perception. He led the league in total rebounds that year. That's gonna turn heads. But that wasn't enough to make people shut up about his size. And again, his team bought in. Detroit spent the 0-1 offseason collecting tall, true centers. But that's okay, he'd get to play power forward, he's not being tossed out on the wing. And the Pistons were building around him. which is kind of cool for a guy who was on the cusp of the NBA 5 seasons ago.
Fair enough.
After going 32-50 in 01, nobody expected the Pistons to do anything in 2002. But they did. Flipping the script, they went 50-32 and made it to the Eastern Conference semis. And that was largely because Ben Wallace became Ben Wallace. Yeah, that one. He was Defensive Player of the Year and led the league in rebounds per game. Wallace attributed the shift to Rick Carlisle and the rest of the coaching staff giving him minutes and opportunity and not relegating him to...
It's really just been a matter of getting minutes, of having the coaches believe I can be more than just a specialist. Love it.
Merely a role player. And the rest was history. Multiple All-Star appearances, a title, face of the franchise, a wonderful legacy, and a wonderful life. His legacy is so strong, it could not be overshadowed by the next chapter of his career. Butting heads with new Piston coach Flip Saunders, followed by a disappointing stint in Chicago.
Is that why he went to Chicago? He was fighting with Flip? Because I always kind of wondered that, and I never knew the actual story of why he left the Pistons.
His legacy is so strong, it makes early analysis seem paradoxical. Offensively limited? Who cares?
Yeah, right?
Too small? Is that a joke? A no-name role player? Man, open your mind. This is Ben Wallace, as we will always know him.
Great video.
Thanks for watching, everybody, everywhere. And thank you to all our Patreon subscribers. While you're here, check out some more videos. And for Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.
Yeah, Clara, I don't know why you're so hilarious to me. Yeah, you see, guys, it doesn't make any sense to me because, okay, the first guy on my mind is Steph Curry. He is an offensive genius, right? When it comes to scoring, dribbling, passing, the guy's next level. Is he a good defender? Not really. Not really. But does that mean we're not going to play him or give him a shot at all because he's like overly gifted on one end and not on the other? No, it doesn't. We wouldn't even bat an eye because everyone is obsessed with scoring stats, you know? So of course Steph Curry gets a shot, and look what he's become. He's become one of the greatest players of all time. And Ben Wallace, same deal. So he's not good on the offensive end as far as scoring goes, but he does everything else great. Come on, man. You know, like I don't understand why we focus so much just on scoring. And defenders do not get the respect that they deserve. I don't know what it is. I guess, I mean, I get it. It's not as fun to watch, or like it's not as flashy. They don't make great highlights. But I don't know, man. There's two sides of the ball. There's offense and there's defense, and you need both in order to be a championship team. So why is every contender not looking for a defensive stopper? That's what I want to know. A guy who's going to do all the dirty work. Everybody needs it. I look at my Phoenix Suns here with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. The hell are we doing? How many shooters do we need? You know, who's doing the dirty work? You know, was it supposed to be Nurkic? He's not really that guy. You know, he's just... We don't have anybody like that. We need somebody. We need a Dennis Rodman. We need a Ben Wallace. Somebody like that. Because... That big three that we have here in Phoenix, I mean, it won't last long. We're going to blow it up to some extent. But anyways, while it's here, you got three guys who can average 25 easily. You know, so that's 75 points on the board. Easy. What the hell else? You know, we don't need everyone scoring 25 a game. We already have three of them. So how about let's get a defensive stopper who can get rebounds, give us second chance opportunities, and just do all the damn dirty work. Anyways, I'm rambling on about it. Guys, do you feel any way like I feel about it? Because I used to always look out for the garbage man on each team. Because, you know, you need one. And, yeah, I mean, think about games where, okay, Tony Kukoc got nothing but respect for him. But it was perfect for him on the Bulls to be the sixth man. Why? Because, yeah, Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen were doing it on the defensive end. I'll stick with Dennis Rodman, especially because he was the garbage man of the team. He was doing all that stuff, and we could take the scoring and the playmaking from Tony Kukoc off the bench. But in the starting lineup, you already had Pippen, you already had Jordan. You know, you had enough of that offensive threat going on there that we didn't need, you know, another person like that in the lineup. You need someone to get the rebounds, to do all the dirty work. So let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Is it all just scoring? Is that all that matters? Or am I being an old head, or what's going on here? Either way, like the video if you liked it. If you didn't, dislike the video twice. And if you can't figure out why I said that, then that's awesome. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. You guys, shout out to members. I appreciate you all. And most importantly, be water, my friends. See you in the comments.